everyone. I am comedian Jen Kober. Welcome to the latest episode of my podcast, Bitchin' Over Biscuits, where we deep dive into a different genre of podcast every week with our special surprise celebrity guest. I am joined today, as always, by my producer and grounding force, Mr. Mike Brignac. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Jen.
And this week's surprise celebrity guest is owner of the Crow Comedy Club, an amazing performer, a brilliant writer, and a mom. Put your hands together for Nicole Blaine.
Yes.
I hear nobody. Putting their hands together.
We will insert uproarious applause.
Yeah.
in post-production.
My children would not applaud. Let me tell you something. With that introduction, to be like, and no.
Well, I mean, those are all true things. Nicole runs the Crow Comedy Club, which is a brilliant little comedy club over on the west side. It's in Santa Monica, my old stomping grounds. It was an old flower shop that Nicole turned into a comedy club. And it is I still do a weekly show there. I work out all my new material when I'm in Los Angeles at her club. It is a beautiful space. It is very empowering and nurturing and encouraging of female voices and queer voices. And it's just a very inclusive place. And I love it there, Nicole. Thank you for creating such a space.
Thank you. I know. And it's funny because I feel like you can already hear. Do you hear the screaming in the background?
No, we hear nothing. Pretend like you're not torturing children behind you.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, can you hear the children that are being trapped upstairs? I feel like I loved your introduction of it because truly like when I was like trying to even go like, well, what is the mission of the Crow? And I was like, all I kept coming back to, I was like, well, it's what a comedy club would look like if a mom owned it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the mom who's like, come here, all of my children, I want you to feel like good and happy, and I have string cheese on premise.
You absolutely do. When I was just there, I was up in the green room, and there's like a little fridge for the comedians where there's water and beer and such. And there was one Jell-O cup, and I was like, oh, this is for some child. I wanted to eat it, but I was like, this is probably for a kid who like needs it in case they like go into anaphylactic shock or something. The Crow.
Well, it's so funny. Sorry, I was gonna say, well, because when I had to get my beer license, like, by the way, super complicated because it's all government run and blah,
right.
And they were, and I was like, well, I want beer and wine. And like, well, you can't have beer and wine if there's children on premises and there isn't hot food. So I was like, okay, fine, just beer. And they're like, okay, fine. But then if you have beer, there has to be turkey sandwiches. And I was like, okay, first of all, that's disgusting. At like 9 p.m., I have to like make sure that there's fresh turkey sandwiches at a comedy club because I want children on premise. And so then I was like, wait, stop right now. I was like, what we should have? Forget turkey sandwiches. Every single like stoner adult watching a show or a child, peanut butter and jelly. So
I was just going to say.
Yep, I got PB&Js.
Oh my God,
always.
I love that. And now that I know that, I'm never going to not have a PB&J when I'm there.
Yeah. Now I'll show you where
cannot wait. I cannot wait. That sounds amazing. As you know, the show is called Bitchin' Over Biscuits, and so the star of the show really is our biscuits. My lovely, I want you to know these are homemade by my wife. These are just buttermilk biscuits, but then she went and put double sausage patties inside of them.
Oh, man.
Double sausage patties because she loves me and she knows me, and one is never enough. So thank you, Brooke, for those deliciousness. Mike, what kind of biscuit you working with today?
Okay. I've told you about how my dad makes some delicious biscuits. So he made this for me. This is a wedge out of a round pan full. And if you look closely, you see all those little nodules.
It's like monkey bread, pulled apart bread.
It just breaks apart. And this
he made you monkey biscuits.
And then
that's
the top,
amazing.
it's soaked with honey. It's so good. It has now been
That's-
wow.
a week since I gave up the carnivore diet,
Wow.
and I love this.
You're doing vegan biscuits? Is that what's happening?
No, I was doing a carnivore diet where it's just meat.
All he ate was meat, like
Oh,
meat
you were
with a side of meat.
The opposite. Got it.
Right. And
Got it.
Yes.
You were doing all.
it was
Yes.
killing me. So I'm happy to be back to welcome some carbs back in my life.
And some vegetables.
Why were you doing that? Yeah, why were you eating all meat? What's the
My
point of
wife
that?
wanted to do it, so she asked me to commit for
Mhm.
30 days. And I said, 30 days, I'll do it. And it was the longest 30 days of my life. It was no
but
vegetables.
why? What was the, but why? Why would anyone want to do that?
That's what
What's
I
your
said,
wife's-
Nicole. That was my question.
I-
Because friends of ours were trying it and they lost weight. And
He did lose weight, though. He
I
did
did.
lose weight.
I lost about 15 pounds.
He looks
But-
great,
Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
but I don't know if I could do that.
But
Yeah, it's
I miss vegetables. I do miss I missed vegetables, and I missed my carbs. I love my carbs.
You can't do a podcast called Bitchin' Over Biscuits without having some biscuits. All right,
Exactly.
Nicole,
No,
what you got in the way
yeah.
of a biscuit?
Well, here's my problem, okay? Because and this is how I feel about I love biscuits, and my husband is from Texas, so he actually
Oh,
takes
yeah.
biscuits very seriously, but he also refuses to eat them without gravy. Are you a
Mm,
gravy people?
Mm.
Yeah.
we like
Yeah.
gravy.
So like, but also his grandfather used to always keep like a can of bacon grease on the
yeah.
oven and then
Nice.
constantly use it. Yeah. And sausage grease and all like it was pretty incredible. So now at this point I'm so spoiled with his biscuits that if he wasn't going to be able to make them for me, I didn't want it. And
I get it.
this is the sad part. Did you know he has shingles right now?
Oh,
What?
ugh.
And by the way, just I don't know if you guys know anything about shingles, but it's horrible. It's
Yeah.
super painful. Do you know? Did you?
Yeah,
know
yeah,
this?
that's awful.
Yeah, there's anything that there's a shot for, it has to
Yeah.
be awful. It has to
Right.
be awful.
So you get the shingles vaccine when you turn 50. He got shingles literally 1 week before he turned 50. Like
oh
he
my
was so
God.
premature, and I was like, I feel though like you're always on brand with being premature. So
Because
it's valid.
it's the chicken pox virus, is it
Yeah.
not? In
Yeah,
adults.
so like but it's nothing like it's like if you had chicken pox as an adult, you can get it, right?
Got it.
And
Got it.
what you get is nothing like chicken pox. It's actually like nerve pain, so that he
Ah.
felt like he was on fire. He's still for 1 month, he's been on fire.
Oh my
Inside
Oh
his
God.
my God. And her husband is so nice. Her husband is so nice.
I know.
Which rolls us beautifully into this week's genre, which is parenting. We are talking parenting. We had to go get a parent for it. We tried to talk to my niece about it. I thought it would be funny if we talked to my niece about parenting. And we will play a clip of how that went.
Oh,
Come on. Sit up. Here we go. Come on. This is for real. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bitchin' Over Biscuits. I am Jen Kober. This is my niece, Riley, who is joining us today as we talk about parenting.
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry.
so cute. So I'm her understudy.
She was so enthused to be on a podcast that all she could do was giggle every time I asked her anything. So she couldn't really get to it. But we did have a very fun moment where I asked her what her favorite word was, what the word she always wanted to say in front of her parents was. And we'll play that right now.
Okay, good.
All right. Now, Riley, you have parents, and your parents are my brother and his wife, Alicia. So there are words that your parents do not let you say, but you want to say them, right? There's a word you like to say. Is there any? You can say it here. I've gotten their permission. They said it's okay. Just say whatever the word is that you want to say. What's the word? It's okay. Just say it.
Fuck.
Is that your favorite bad word?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say it a few times. Let's just get it out of you. Like, sing a little song.
No.
So clearly we needed a parenting expert, and you are a parent. A lot of your material as a comedian is about your kids and about being a parent. So tell us, what is, we'll start with the bad, as we like to do here on Bitchin' Over Biscuits. What about parenting is what should you not bitch about? But oh my God, it's just the worst. What is it?
Today, like right now, this moment, I've got the greatest kids in the world, except, right? Like, we're just gonna say that, like, this is how this is. Okay, they know, they're very loved, but like, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I am afraid of her. Like, I feel like that is, I live through fear. My husband will look at me and he'll just be like, just breathe through it. Because so last night we have our teen show. Once a month I do a teen show. Jen's been on it. And
super fun.
It's so cool, right? Like, and that's the thing, like, it's very hard to book comics for it though, because most comics are really the most afraid to perform in front of teenagers. It's
oh my God, they're
the
best. They're the best.
Yeah, but you feel that way. Most people, but here's the thing. Comics under 10 years in can't handle it. I think that's part of it. Like, their confidence isn't there. They're worried these are not drunk people. So like they're stone cold sober. They're mean. You know, teenagers, you want to think that, like, you want them to think you're cool. So like, I don't know, stand-ups get very nervous about it.
No, I get that. There's that in it for me as well. But also, I know when I was a teenager, the awe I had for stand-up comedians, that like, oh my God, anybody could have gotten up there and said anything, and I'd have been like, that's amazing that you do that. Like, the awe of it. So I just come at it from that.
Right. But so, of course, so my daughter comes last night because she wanted to see I don't know why she was here for some odd reason with a couple of her friends.
Right.
And it was a really good crowd. Like, there was like a nice teenage audience. But in the front row, and one of the comics starts, doing crowd work with this girl in the front row and says, "Oh, how old are you?" And she's like 6th grade. Now, I say it's for tweens and teens, but 6th grade's pretty young, right?
Yeah.
Like, that means she's like 11, and whatever. And of course the night goes great. There's no issue. But then I go home and I had to listen to my daughter for 30 minutes tell me that are we allowed to cuss on this podcast?
Yes. Say your piece.
Thank you. She's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you letting this 11-year-old in? How do you think I'm going to be able to invite my friends if there's going to be an 11-year-old in the room? Do you have any idea what that's doing to me and my reputation?" And I was like, I don't even, I don't know how to respond, where I'm like, I'm trying to love you, but I'm embarrassed. It had nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? Like, I can't win. I just want to say that I feel abused as I'm trying to help one child. I don't know. I'm trapped. I live in a prison.
Girls are harder than boys to raise. Would you agree with that?
Hell yeah.
100%.
Okay. Because you also have a boy.
I do. I have this, like, and that's the problem, is that, like, he wants nothing to do with me. He's 13 years old. He's at sleepaway camp. He barely texts back. The first text I got from him, and this is his first time sleeping away. He's been gone in upstate New York. I had to drop this kid off. I'm not kidding. The first text I got after 10 days was, "Send cup of noodles."
Well, they don't have those in upstate New York. That's not
apparently not.
I love that. I love that as an answer.
That's it. That's between a dog and a son.
Listen, I have no skin in this game. I have no dog in this fight. I am not a parent, but as someone who is with someone who has children, I can tell you that the girls are just everything is so emotional. Everything is so emotional. Literally, literally
Uh-huh.
said to her one day, is that the shirt you're gonna wear? Because she was like, she liked the shirt. She was saying like, oh, that's the shirt you're gonna wear. And she was like, I can't do anything right. And just ran off. And I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like
I know.
just the emotions are right on their little sleeve and they are so intense, so intense. And a boy, you could look at him and be like, go put on a different shirt. And he'll just be like, which one? The blue one.
Yeah.
Okay. And they go
Yeah.
do
Okay.
it. Like there's no,
That's it.
That's
It
the
is
way it
always
was. I had 4 boys, Nicole, 4 boys,
do?
and then our 5th child is the daughter. And they're all
Uh-huh.
grown now. The youngest, the daughter's 19. But the boys, all I had to just, raise my voice a little bit. Hey, knock it off. Zip, they're done.
Was it? Yeah.
Bella, I said that. I remember the first time I tried that. She was probably 6 or 7. Hey, knock it off. Shrill, the shrieking and the crying. And you're right. You can't say, you have to watch your tone on how you say it, what words you use, because you never know when that volcano is going to erupt.
yes.
No, since and they catch on real early. When I started yelling at my daughter when she was 5 years old and in public, she was like, I'm going to call CVS. And I was like,
Oh, man.
I'm gonna call
think it's a
CVS.
pharmacy, CVS. I
I'll
was like,
strangle you with a long receipt, Mom. Oh my gosh. So
yeah, no, I know.
then what is the answer to that? How do you maneuver those? I mean, are you funny with them? Do you try to reason with them? Do you just strong arm through it? What's the pivot here?
Well, all right, do we ever go vulnerable in this podcast? Do we go like,
Sure, let's be vulnerable.
Sure. Hit it, do it.
okay, for the
I
real?
mean, no
Okay.
one's done it before, but we're open to it.
Really?
No.
For real? Does
No,
everyone
you're
really
good.
light?
No, do
Okay.
your
No.
thing.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that like I really wanted children. Like I was someone who was like, I imagined myself being a mom, and I really, really wanted a girl. Like, not that I didn't want a boy, but I didn't want a boy. I really like, and I was like, I want this beautiful relationship with, and there's a part of me, and I don't know if you had this, Mike, but like sort of like that, I'm gonna do it differently, that generational trauma
Oh,
of like,
yeah.
I didn't get this from
Yes.
my parents, so I'm redoing and like reparenting myself by loving this, and I want to
Mhm.
have the dreamy relationship where like I get that with her, and I have a good relationship now with my mom, so like whatever, but I really just wanted a certain sort of like closeness. And I had this kid and I was so excited, and she came out of me, and on day 10 of her being born, after she was born, she screamed and didn't stop. And like I haven't met another person who said, "Oh, the colic is equal to you." I'm not exaggerating. She wasn't crying for 20 minutes during the day and 20 minutes at night. I was like swaddling her in the middle of August. It was like my boobs, like I didn't know if I was sweating or lactating. I was jumping up and down. I had white noise blasting. It was, I don't know, like I didn't think I was going to survive the postpartum depression with this kid. And I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to get through this. And then when she was about a year and a half and things sort of started to like settle down, I turned to my husband. I was like, let's have another one. He was like, absolutely not. I was like, no. We need a good one. Like lightning doesn't this is first pancake. She sucks. Like, I want to redo, you know? So I had to convince him, which was basically just like fucking him. And he was like, oops, okay. Like, so easy. But I got the second kid, and kind of like you're saying, like it was a boy, and like he like slips right out. Birthing was easy. Like breastfeeding was like he would just sleep and wake up and sleep. He was so easy and everything. So then, flash forward, I've got a 3-year-old, this newborn, and as they age, he stays easy, she stays hard. And it was one of those things at some point where I was like, well, I'm the same mom with these two kids. And so I'm going to assume the problem is her, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
feels like it's not me. I'm not a different mom. Like it works for him and it doesn't work for her. So like that's her problem.
Yeah.
So I did go. So I was like, all right, she's 5 now. And I'm the dream of having the relationship that I wanted with my mom is now not happening. Like here I was trying to reach and bond, and I'm legitimately ready to throw this kid away. So I went to a therapist, and it took every week of seeing this same therapist for 5 years. Okay. So from when she was 5 to 10. And I kept saying, like, this is what's her problem. Now, all the while, now at this point, she's picking up on the fact that I am very, very nice to him. And I'm very affectionate with him. And I'm like making out with him on the couch. And she could walk over to me and I would flinch. Like, that's why I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I wasn't being this, right? Like, I need to be honest and go, sure, she and I hadn't connected. But now I am acting different, but I couldn't admit it. Like, I do think, like, so she kept saying things like, you love him more, you love him more. And I was like, never wanted her to feel that way. And even if that was, let's be honest, what was going on, so I kept saying, no, I don't, no, I don't. And looking back on that, that's like gaslighting, right? Because
Yeah.
she's like, right, there's like, what am I saying to someone when I'm like, what do you mean? But like also being mean and making out with my son. And flash forward, my mom is a therapist, and she was like, look, we got to do whatever we can for this kid. Like, put her in therapy while I'm in therapy. And what is a 10-year-old going to say to a therapist? You know, it just also feels like, what are they going to do? So in a desperate moment, my mom was like, I'm friends with a hypnotherapist. Great, I'll try anything, right? So my daughter goes to this hypnotherapist while she's also seeing a talk therapist, and I'm seeing my own talk therapist. And I get a call, and the hypnotherapist says, with permission and consent, can I tell your daughter's therapist about a session that we had? Can I give that information, right? Because it's all privacy. But we had an interesting conversation that I think her therapist should hear. And I was like, oh yeah, go ahead, talk amongst yourselves, do whatever we need to do, fix the situation. So they talk, and I end up having, at the exact same time, I end up having a breakthrough finally with my own personal therapist, who ends up, after 5 years, somehow being able to show me a mirror of where my responsibility is in this.
Uh-huh.
All the while, I walk into my daughter's therapy session, and therapist says, hey, Nicole, your daughter's hypnotherapist called me and we had this conversation, and I would like to tell you about it. And I go, okay. So now here was their conversation. Is this making any sense so far?
Yes,
Yeah, keep
I'm
going.
riveted. This is way better than Deadline. Go.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the hypnotherapist says, I have been doing hypnotherapy with children for 20 years. I do the same thing. I do the same sort of like, you know, I want you to imagine yourself in a room. It's the most beautiful, loving, safe space. I want you to visualize yourself. It's almost like a cocoon or a womb.
Right.
You could be on another planet, you could be floating, but whatever it is, it's the perfect temperature, it's the perfect weight, it's the perfect space. And in the safest space that you are in, there is an entity in the room with you. I want you to imagine what that other being is. And it can be anything, anyone. It could be an imaginary creature. It could be a unicorn with a mermaid tail. It could be someone you know. It could be a famous person, alive or dead. Who in this room? And this is like your child is under deep hypnosis, right? And they've gotten to this point and they go, who is in this room? Who is it with you? And the hypnotherapist said, in 20 years that I have done this, your daughter said something that I have never heard any child answer. And I went, oh, I already know who she said. I can guess. And she was like, and now the therapist is like, really? You can guess who your daughter said is in that room? And I said, of course, because it's the same being that I would have in that room, which is my husband, who has been my savior, the one who I had drug addict parents who saved me. I feel like the one thing that has, like, as out of control as I've gotten in the mothering that I haven't done well, he doesn't get spiked. He's her person. He's kept us so grounded. He's like our Buddha in the corner. And I can take so much solace in knowing that if I haven't been the good parent, like, he has held down that ship. And so I start to cry and I go, I know who she's going to say. And there's a part of me that feels bad, but also like, I'm good for choosing him, you know, and if I can't do it, he can. And I said, of course, I know she chose her dad. And the therapist said, no, Nicole. She said you.
Oh.
And I went, what? Me? Yeah. You're who makes her feel the safest.
Wow.
And it changed. And Tegan, my daughter, wasn't in the room. And I said, bring her in. And I brought her in to the room and I looked at her and I said, I want to say I'm sorry. All those times you've said you love your brother more, that I've treated him differently. I want to say you're right.
Wow.
I've treated him differently. And I am so sorry.
Wow.
And the first words out of her mouth were immediately like, and she's 10. She said, I forgive you. That was first words out of her mouth. And that was it. And to from that moment on, I don't know what the shift was. I felt there was a part of me that wonders, did I not feel like she loved me all that time because I was living? Here's the deal. I'm not making any sense. All I can say is the word that came up for me as a parent was shame. And I'd never experienced the definition of shame. And I'd carried that, and she released me and she forgave me. And it was me the whole time. I don't know. She is my person. I'm on this planet for her. We connected after that. She's 16. She is like everything to me. And she still scares me, but that's separate.
Well, she is still pissed at you for letting 11-year-olds into the club. I mean, if you could really rein that in.
I could really, there's places to improve, you know?
That is a beautiful story. That really is. And I was so waiting to see who it was in the room. And that's amazing to me that she had the wherewithal to know to even say the words, I forgive you.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like at 10 out of my instinct would have been to not make my mom like, no, it's okay. I would have said it's okay instead of I forgive you. I don't know that I had the vocabulary to say I forgive you. And I think that is a big testament to what she has seen and what she has experienced, because she didn't know it from your filter. She only knew it from her filter. She knew something was off, but I'm sure those things that she thought were off, right? The reason you love him more, she thought was her. And you knew was you. You know what I mean? And so that's why it was able to line up like that. And like I said,
it literally was the whole time, right? I was the problem, I was the solution. It was so about, and it's funny that you say like, oh, drawing the comparison, like she was able to say, I forgive you. When I think back to like, what was my issue with my childhood trauma, and when I say, oh, now I have a good relationship with my mom, what's interesting is I didn't forgive her until I became a mother. That was my, so what's interesting is all,
Ah.
and like Tegan was around for that transition of forgiving my mother, but it was because of having a kid and realizing it's too hard to be a parent. It's just too hard.
So did your mother
You're-
become, your mother's the therapist you were speaking of earlier?
Yeah.
So, so that shift happened within your mother of her becoming a therapist.
No, she was always a therapist.
Okay. Okay.
She was a therapist my whole time, my whole
Because
life.
I've met your mother. Your mother was just at my
Yeah.
show last week.
I know, she loves
Adorable.
you.
And
Yeah.
she
I know.
was we were talking about one of my jokes, and she kept talking to me about an image that was coming up for her whenever I told this particular story. And I can't wait for her to hear me tell it again, because I took what she said and put it into the story, and now it's very funny.
Wait, I want to, well, can you tell me about it, or do you not talk
Yeah,
about that stuff
well,
on the podcast?
I'm not gonna tell the exact material just because I don't want the material to get out. But basically, it was a story about something I had seen in a video, and so I'm describing what I saw in the video. And your mom came up to me after the show and she said, "You know, while you were saying that, I kept picturing this." And I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting." So then I went and looked up the thing she kept picturing, and added it into the joke and into the story. And now the whole thing makes sense. Like, it's not just this sort of one-off thing. It really tied it into the whole bigger
Oh
thing that
my
I'm talking about.
God.
That's so
I
cool.
know.
My
I
mom-
love your mom. I love your mom. So I think that's interesting, when to have had a parent who was a therapist clearly
Yes.
made you very open to using therapy as a tool to repair your own relationship with your kids, and to let your kids sort of explore that on their own too. I imagine that was that does not happen as often as it probably should. Therapy, I mean, maybe in California, but I can tell you now,
I was gonna say
in the
LA,
South,
yeah.
it's a very it's still one of those things people whisper about. "Oh, she's in therapy," right? People say it in a
Really?
lower
Yeah.
voice. Yeah,
Mike,
yeah.
have you ever done do any of your kids ever, have you ever paid for therapy for your kids?
I have a son in therapy.
Good.
He's an adult. Went through and and I went through years of blaming myself because
Mhm.
he was having issues with anxiety and not wanting to be outside the house. And
Oh,
I went through years, like the last 7, 8 years, blaming myself because I had been sick. I was in a wheelchair. I had all sorts of health problems. So this son came home with me and I homeschooled him because it was easier. And then he's having all these issues within himself. And so I'm like, I failed. And every time I'd look, you're gonna have me crying. I'm gonna start crying on the show. I I felt like a failure. Like I made it with these other sons and
right.
my
Yep.
daughter, but I failed him. And
Oh,
Right.
it's not me. You got to let go of the blame and that attacking yourself.
Right.
I had to let go of that for myself. And
well, it doesn't help anybody. It's not
no,
helping you, but it's also not helping them, because now
right.
you're coming at them from a place of feeling less than.
Yeah.
And so, you got to put on your own mask before you help others.
Yeah.
That's just what that.
And I fought him. I tried to convince him he didn't need therapy. Like, yeah, you just need to get out more. Well, let's go do things. And then I realized I was trying to ignore that or hide that from myself because I didn't
because
want
there's
him to
stigma
find out.
attached to it.
Right. And I was
Yeah.
afraid that it would be something about me. It was a selfish
course.
reason. I didn't want him to
Yeah.
discover, oh, dad is a bad dad.
Yeah.
So I had to let all that go. He is doing so well.
Yay.
In fact, he was the last comedy show with Jen that I hosted here in Lake Charles a couple of weeks ago. That was his first comedy show to ever go to. First stand up.
I popped his cherry.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah.
fun?
Amazing.
So
But
I'm
you
proud
have
of
to-
him.
That's the problem with it. Like, I think, and that's why this job is so hard, and that's why it's connected to you also. Like, what I would be interested to know, Mike, what part of that story relates to your relationship with your parents?
Ooh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, we didn't talk about anything.
Nope.
You held that shit in. You didn't.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We weren't taught about sex. We weren't taught about anything. So
Right.
I grew up in that household where you didn't tell secrets, you didn't share, you didn't talk about your feelings, you just got over it. So I just told my parents last night about an AIDS scare I had when I was 18 years old, and I'm 53 now,
Wow.
about how I was certain I had it and how I went through weeks waiting for blood tests to come back. And they never knew, because that's how it was in my house. You just don't
Yeah.
talk about shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
In
How
my
different-
house we just ate. Just whatever feelings you're having, just eat them. Just shove. If you just put food in your mouth instead of thoughts in your head, you'll be so much happier. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
It's
And like, that's the thing. That's the easiest, the coping is so interesting. Cause like for me, it was, I just starved myself. Right. Which is
Yeah.
why then I look at my daughter and I've taught her, my own eating disorder, and she did the opposite, which was she's an overeater, right? And so we both have eating disorders, both, you know what I mean? I'm like, it's
on
oh,
just
this
different
the
sides.
and look, and just like you, Mike, I'm like, I can blame myself. I can blame myself.
Yeah.
She's got to go to the doctor. I've got to deal with all this stuff. And all of it is because of me, you know? So I know. What are we going to do?
Jen,
It ain't easy. It ain't
no, it's
easy.
not.
Look, I have only done it from a sort of bonus parent perspective. And even that's not easy because they're not my kids. Like
Right.
you know what I mean? I can have all the opinions I want, all the ways I'd have done it. And I can promise you every one of those ways comes from the way I was parented. And I say that every time my lady asks me, like, how would you handle this? I'm like, listen, you have to understand that I was raised by a person who said no to everything. My mother's first reaction to everything was no. That's not the way it's going to happen. Do that. No. And so that's always my first reaction is, do you think it's okay for them to go down by the river by themselves without an adult?
No.
No, it's not okay. What are you talking about? Do you think it's okay if they go to a concert in another city with somebody's grandma? No, I don't think it's okay. It's very difficult to make those kind of decisions because making those kind of decisions could, I mean, the consequences are so
Right.
life or death, right?
Right.
Your only job is to keep this fucking kid alive.
Right.
That's really it. I mean, happy, healthy, mentally stable are all just bonus things, but your main job is to keep this kid alive. And so letting them go places with other people who I don't fucking know, who I certainly don't fucking trust, is so hard for me. But I remember being a kid and being like, why won't this bitch just trust me?
That's right.
Why can't I fucking go to the mall by myself? I'm not gonna fucking do anything. So it was always such. So when I became involved with women who had children, I always in those situations, while trying to be the one who's like, I don't care, they can do whatever, right? In my heart and in my head, and to their mama, I was always like, just say no. Don't let them go. I don't believe anything they're saying right now, so.
It's hard to trust. It's hard to let go of the kids and let them find their themselves. And I hated that, especially with Bella, letting her go out.
A girl child,
It's just
to let them, the minute she tells the teenager tells me she's going anywhere, I'm like, who's going to be there? Just my friends. Okay, but how many of them have penises? That's what I want to know. And truthfully, I don't even care if it's not even about sex. It's not that I don't even know what she's attracted to or what she's into, but I know how boys are.
Yep.
And I know that there is just a daredevil kind of thing in almost all of them. And also an entitled thing, and also an I'm so young and nothing's going to happen to me thing.
Right.
So they're just
Here's the
making
other thing.
distinctions.
Plus, I will say that this is so weird, and you're like, what? Okay. My daughter was like, I think 3 years old. And she was born in 2008. So 9, 10, something like that. Get Them to the Greek or something came out in the movie theaters. I don't know. It was like Russell Brand and
Right.
Jonah Hill or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
And there's a anal rape scene
Oh,
in this movie. Okay. Hilarious.
yeah.
And it's this very rated R movie. And like my husband and I are on our like a date night that seems very rare. It's a packed theater, and sitting behind me are a mom and dad who have brought a 4-year-old and 5-year-old to the theater.
Oh my God.
And and that's the thing with rated R. If you have a parent, they're like, okay, go on in.
Yeah.
So now you've got this like the entire audience is laughing at this very violent comedic anal rape scene where they're drugging him or something like that. And all I'm thinking is that these two little boys sitting behind me are 1 and 2 years older than my daughter. They're all going to end up at the same high school. And unconsciously, these children are being told that there's no consent. This is funny. Drugging a person and putting their ass is, because the audience is laughing. So there's no way, there's no context.
This would totally have been me as a parent. I'd be like, come on, they're going to get that it's funny. They'll see that it's, you know what I mean? There's so much that you don't even think of.
Right. And now I'm like, my daughter's going to be at a party 10 years from now, and these fucking kids are going to fucking rape her. And that's where I was like, I don't know how to handle this, but like, that's what I feel we're dealing with is other parents ruining their children. And
lock them out, lock all the little girls in a tower. I mean, and it makes you understand Rapunzel, doesn't it? Doesn't it?
It does. It does.
It is. Look, parenting is not for the weak. I think that is what the conclusion we have come to, and that we come to know. If you are in the Santa Monica area and you are looking for anything to do, I am here to tell you that hitting the Crow Comedy Club is one of the best, safest bets you can make. They offer all sorts of comedy classes. They have a comedy festival every year that I was honored to have been part of the selection committee for that. I love you, Nicole Blaine. I love what you are doing there at the Crow Comedy Club. Thank you for joining us here on Bitchin' Over Biscuits. You can find Nicole at NicoleBlaine.com or crowcomedy.com to get a full schedule and list of events happening there in Santa Monica. We want you to remember that you can join us on the Instagrams. Follow us at the BOB Podcast, or find us on the interwebs, thebobpod.com. This has been another episode of Bitchin' Over Biscuits, where we have talked about parenting. I hope you have learned something. We had such a touching episode.
This was a really good one.
This was a really, we went to a nice, vulnerable place. Mom, thanks for leading us there. We appreciate it.
I know, but I feel like, did you want this to be funny? It was
funny. It was funny. It was touching. It was vulnerable. Yeah. We want it to be real. Who knows what we're tackling different genres. Who knows how it's going to come out? And we appreciate your candor and your honesty and your authentic, bringing your authentic self to the table. That's all we've ever wanted. That's what we provide here at Bitchin' Over Biscuits: carbohydrates and feelings. Carbs and compassion, that's how we like to say it. I am Jen Kober, that's Mike Brignac, that's our special guest, Nicole Blaine. Join us next week for another episode of Bitchin' Over Biscuits. We are out.